because these issues are actually really interesting. Sure, they're complicated, but they connect to each other and to us in lots of surprising and fascinating ways. I also noticed that it was really hard to bring climate change down to scale, to make sense of it within the context of our own lives, and to get a sense of how our habits and the products we use affect the environment. I started thinking, what kinds of things am I doing or buying without thinking about where they come from or what kind of impact they have? How have our habits and our expectations changed over time, maybe generating more waste or encouraging more consumption? What do I notice myself and other people doing that seems wasteful, but appears to happen without a second thought? I thought about how watching TV and movies is so different now from when I was little, when a show was on once a week, and if you missed it, the best you could hope for was a rerun someday. Now, I can watch a whole series in one sitting on my laptop, and streaming online videos is something that many of us probably take for granted. Maybe we think about the electricity needed to power our laptop, but we probably don't consider that going online itself uses electricity, which often comes from fossil fuels. In the US, we still get about 1/3 of our electricity from coal, so streaming your online video may be coal-powered. The byproduct of burning that coal is coal ash, one of the largest industrial solid waste streams in the country, which is largely underregulated and can end up polluting groundwater, streams, lakes, and rivers across the country. As crazy as this might sound, it means that watching your favorite episode of The Office might come at the expense of clean water for someone else. I thought about cotton. Sometimes we hear about how drought and irrigation for agriculture create environmental problems or freshwater shortages, but we don't always hear those same things about cotton, even though it's also a plant. Cotton has to be grown somewhere, and depending on where it comes from, as many as 2,000 gallons of water could have been used to grow 1 kilogram of it, and up to 2,900 gallons could have been used to make it into a pair of blue jeans, possibly affecting someone's water supply somewhere, maybe that of a villager in Uzbekistan. If you've ever looked at a guide about how to reduce your carbon footprint, you've probably read that cutting red meat out of your diet is a pretty effective way to do so. But maybe there are problems that agriculture poses beyond just greenhouse gas emissions, I thought. Turns out there are. In the US, the majority of cows mostly eat feed derived from corn and soybeans, and the way we grow those crops also causes massive amounts of water pollution in rivers, lakes, the Gulf of Mexico, and rural drinking supplies. For the most part, these aren't the kinds of environmental problems we hear about, but they help us understand the broader scope of the issue once we learn about them. As I began to learn more about the many aspects of climate change, I saw that these discrete threads are all actually part of a giant tapestry, telling a story about pollution and waste, and also about people and culture and history. It didn't make me feel less alarmed, but I did start to feel less anxious and scared. I started to feel that I understood what was happening in the world, that I could evaluate what politicians and scientists and business leaders were saying, and I found that I felt like a more informed and more responsible citizen. Unfortunately, knowledge doesn't necessarily change our very real feelings of powerlessness. While we know what needs to happen to mitigate the effects of climate change, halting greenhouse gas emissions now and hopefully sucking some more out from the atmosphere, actually getting there is really hard, because greenhouse gas emissions are involved in almost everything we do, and a certain amount of warming and change is unavoidable at this point. Few people have offered understandable solutions. We aren't told very much about either these solutions' effectiveness or the actual effort or expense involved in making them happen. Instead, we hear a lot about smaller-scale fixes that play to our individual desire to have an impact, while the larger, systemic problems are often left unexplained and unsolved. Most of us know that plastic bottles are wasteful and that we should drink from reusable ones instead. Or, we are often told that we need to get all of our electricity from renewable sources within the next decade or so, which would require a major retooling of the economy, a transformation of the electrical grid, and developments in battery technology, but those undertakings are often treated as an afterthought. Somehow, it seems like these two options are given the same amount of consideration and attention.